thoughts on engineering education and how it is at its current state in the country today?
Okay. See, it's like this. The engineering education has seen a big transformation over the last 15 to 20 years. And most of this transformation, I would say, has been quantitative, in the sense that 15 years ago we were producing 150,000 engineering output every year. This year or year after next we will be producing 8 lakh of people. So we are talking of 5-6 times increase in just 10-15 years, which is a remarkable achievement in terms of the kind of needs of the industry, and India is there. So to that extent it's good. However, what has not really changed is the whole content, if I may call it, at a higher level, and the quality of content, quality of imparting education, improvement in the pedagogy. Those things are not at all changed, and we really need a quantum jump if we really want to be one of the best outputs in the world. Then we need to do that.
And which particular area would you like to see that jump come in majorly?
There are 3 areas at a very broad level, or in fact I would call them even 4, but I'll put them in 3 buckets. The first real bucket is about discovery and innovation. I think today's engineering content and engineering education is about studying, like in schools, rote learning and then answering the questions. Whereas we need a person who has a bent of mind to discover new problems and solve them, use innovative methods to solve these problems, and in short, there is this discovery mode, openness of mind, and ability to look beyond what is there in front of your eyes is one. That's missing piece. The second missing piece is about real life exposure to industry and interaction with the industry, because many a time you find that engineering graduates have just come out of learning in the book or in the laboratory and not really looked at what are the real life problems, what are the things that they need to do well, etc., etc. So that's second. And the third bucket is about personal soft skills issues which are important for industry, particularly for IT industry. It's more so, but it's true in all the industries, that understanding that communication is important, understanding that working in the team is important, understanding that relationship with people around you is important, and so on. So those 3 buckets somehow are not so much emphasized today's education.
So Ashank, you mentioned a great point. You talked about incorporating research, innovation and design into the engineering education system. Could you throw some more light into this aspect of it?
See, it goes like this. Today's engineering education, if I may say, is about solving engineering problems, which is of course required. Ultimately all engineers are problem solvers, but what we need to build is ability to find problems in first place, define the problems in first place, and to me that is what I call as a discovery phase. Every engineer joins an industry. He or she is aware of the problems that are being faced by the customers of the industry, the users of the industry's product, and out of those challenges come up, out of those problems need to be defined, and that is phase number 1 to my mind is very important. I'll just give you a small example. You look at this whole issue of iPad as an innovation or discovery, and we all know that user interfaces are most difficult part of computer software, but somebody had to go and look at how people use and then say that okay, it makes sense to use fingers, it makes sense to use 2 fingers to expand your screen, etc., etc. I mean, it looks very obvious, but somebody had to think about it by going and discovering that as a problem. So that's one. Second is, having done that, having defined the problem, we need to find out what are the disciplines which will solve this problem. So it is about finding out where the solutions exist. And that is, to my mind, also some part of research goes into it. It is about researching across the disciplines to find how we can combine to solve the problem. So that's one level of research. Then of course there is a research in any particular discipline by getting deep into and understanding the inner nuances and getting into the finer points and then refining them, and research of that kind. That is required, yeah. And then the last one, which I call innovation, is about actually making it happen. See, we need problem definition, we need research, but ultimately the real issue is this a workable solution? Which means it comes in right time, right cost, and the right way of delivery in terms of quality. And that whole piece has to be innovated. Some kind of, what should I say, paradigm has to be created where all of them come together, and that's the innovation piece of it. Now all these things are not really taught, as I was saying, and need to be emphasized.
Globally in IT-enabled product development, and what I mean by that is covering all the three areas of hardware development, software development, service development, and engineering product development.
Okay, I think you are covering a fairly large space of IT industry, and let me take each piece one by one. IT services, if you take that up, we are globally competitive. We have made mark globally, as everyone says today, that if you are not doing IT services through Indian companies, then someone in US will say what's wrong with you. So that's one piece. We have to improve even that, but we are there. The second piece is software product development. Now problem there is that we have not been able to do as many products as at least the country expects from us, and it is true. However, it is not about competence to build products. It is about brand building, it is about market size that we have here, and products are to be developed first where the markets are, and there has to be a venture capital, etc., etc. So it's a large subject per se, why we have not done as much as we should be doing. But services are as complex piece as building product, and also there are large software products which are already done in India by us for other software companies which brand it as their product. So India is developing product, but branding is not happening. So that's the second piece. The third piece which you are referring to, which is about hardware products which are really useful in all medical or transport or even engineering applications. Let me go to that. I think a lot more has to be done there, and the issue there lies also in terms of 2-3 things. The first issue is about education. At the engineering level and other places, I don't think there is a discipline like product design. You see, the product that you are talking is about integrating hardware and software. Today's hardware products are more than hardware software. As someone says that Intel is a hardware company or a software company really, because chip hardware is very little in that sense, it's all software. So the point we are making here is there is an ability to conceptualize product, think through the systems integration issues of hardware and software combination, and looking at various aspects of the product, right from sensing to analyzing to outputs, analog, digital issues. I think we do not have a discipline today of what we call a product design. So we have an engineer who may not be well versed is looking at the totality of it. So that's one part. The second part, of course, has to do with Indian industry. Is Indian industry looking for becoming a major player in that area? Then the investment and R&D effort also has to go from the industry. Yeah, so I think that piece is also needs to be improved considerably. That means Indian industry has to identify those things as an opportunities globally. Today, in fact, what happens really is in many cases I know, particularly a case where software is built here for that product, it is sent to Taiwan, It is hardware is built there and the product is then shipped to US. So, which is nothing wrong with it, it's a global coordination you would call it, but you could have done hardware too, but we don't have those spending here as well as the talent here. And beyond that, of course, we need to build markets here which are happening, which will come up. So I'm saying it's a difficult problem, at the same time can be tackled one by one.
Do you think this is the right time for change? Because as you say, the market has to be responsible for such a thing. So as you know, in IICT, Ahmedabad University, we are trying to offer this product design engineering along with electrical and computer science in the BTech curriculum. So that is one very unique attempt we are making, and that is primarily so that engineers are innovators, so that engineers are problem solvers, and we take them through that process all through these 4 years. However, my apprehension is, and that's what you reflect, and you as being the industry head can answer, is the industry going to be responsive towards taking those students? Do you see the change happening slowly?
I think it is changing, and why it is changing is for one single reason. India itself is going to be large consumer of these items. And as these items, and I'll come to the names of those items, but as these items are needing some specific Indian talent and Indian context, so they are best designed in India. I'll give you an example, mobile. Now we are having 800 million mobile users, and 100 million phone sets are bought every year by somebody in village. He or she is looking for 1,000 rupee mobile which can also do browsing and also do phone calls. Now that's a unique India problem, and it has a volume. It may be there in other developing countries, but in India we have volumes. So we need a design which has to be designed in India and not in America. We have a similar problem of healthcare today. We are talking of telemedicine, but telemedicine requires a large amount of equipment which can sense the disease, sense the health parameters, and then transmit them electronically to where the doctor is available. Now there are some unique challenges. In India you don't get power all the time. So how are you going to design a product which will work in rural areas? So I think we are passing through a phase today where we are grappling to build 21st century product with 20th or sometimes even earlier century infrastructure in some places of ours, which is a unique design talent. Where will you get such problem?
True.
So to answer your question, we will have money to spend, but we may not have product which suits us, and that's where your design engineering skills and people come.
So Ashank, what are your views on training engineering students today when we are poised for this change in a multidisciplinary environment? Because if you see the technology solutions that we are talking about cannot be handled by students who are trained only in one discipline. I do believe in purist education, that you are a well-trained computer scientist, it's good, but at the same time you have to have an understanding of different disciplines and how those disciplines can cleverly be used to actually integrate in the product development.
Sure.
So that's my focus of asking.
Okay, see, it's like this. If you think through it, the problems that you face in real life are not physics problem, chemistry problem, or IT problem, or mechanical engineering problem.
True.
They are the problems of real life.
Yes.
So problem comes as a problem that a person faces, or the opportunity comes as an opportunity which is available to us to be exploited, but it does not come in a compartmentalized way.
Yes.
So by definition, the life of size problems are multidisciplinary.
But still in most engineering educations, they still have departments.
Correct.
Right?
Correct. Having said that, I am not saying we don't need disciplines and separate department, because you see, the problem has to be deeply grasped and got researched into, so that we go to the depth of the problem. And your depth of the problem you can only do provided you divide. So when the problem occurs in a multidisciplinary fashion, we need to divide that problem and deeply research it, and that's why the disciplines are needed, and that's why it is created, because physics has a different scientific paradigm versus chemistry, or let's say mechanical engineering has a different paradigm to face versus metallurgy. So that was required. But somewhere down the line we forgot that having done that, we have to go back and solve the problems. And to solve the problems, again you need to combine all of them together and understand what others have done, and that is the whole issue of multidisciplinary. So although I am an expert mechanical engineering, I got to understand what IT can do for me. And IT can solve most of the mechanical engineering problems probably in a different way and innovative way. So if I am a mechanical engineering and do not know IT, I think I am handicapped. And same thing is true about vice versa. So the whole issue is one has to be an expert in particular discipline, that is required. So I am not saying one has to be completely shallow and not knowing anything in detail. One has to be good in one, that's the way one starts. But if one is not sensitized to the other branches and what they can do with your knowledge to solve society's problem, then I think we have lost the flavor of your discipline. So multidisciplinary is a thing, and now with the IT new way of pedagogy and so on and so forth, we should focus on multidisciplinary.
And you understand that it's missing a bit?
It is certainly missing. I do see that electrical engineering department does not work with mechanical. I have seen it with my own eyes in many of the colleges.
So Ashank, what is your opinion of ICT as an engineering discipline?
I think engineering discipline, if I might define it, needs two components. One, it should have an application to solve real life problems. And B, of course, it has to have on the other side an angle of research, understanding deeply the cause and effect of that particular discipline and build a homogeneous framework for theoretical analysis. Both are needed. And today, if you look at both of them, first is about application. I think today we cannot live without IT, if I may say that. That would be very understatement. When I get up in the morning, if I switch on the TV, that's today has almost become a computer with high definition TV and a digital etc., etc. And today, tomorrow we'll have internet TV. So your first morning thing will start with that. Then you will get a mobile call sometime at 7:30 in the morning. What do you have? Mobile is a computer. It's nothing but computer. In fact, I say that we'll have 800 million laptops effectively we have today. With little bit of tweaking, they can be used as computer. Then you step out and go in your car. Do you realize that today car has more chips than any other instrument? There are some 10-15 chips there controlling fuel, lighting, air conditioning, what have you. Then you reach in the office, and then you sit, of course, on computer and write mails, so on and so forth. So I think then if you are not well, unfortunately, you go to hospital, and if you have to do CAT scan, what is it? CAT scan is all computers. So the point I'm making is life is becoming more and more dependent on computers and IT and software and so on and so forth. And good thing about that is really that you will do it without realizing that you are using computer, which is the best part. Because computer makes people fear that it's something new equipment has come, some from alien world. So people get scared. But if they are in car, if they are in mobile, nobody realizes it. So the point I'm making is computing as a discipline is going to make difference to the way we live our life. In fact, I was looking at one ad on a TV recently when some lady comes and says that she is taking leave because she has to take care of a child. Then the boss comes and shows the mobile saying that just switch it on and you can see your baby at home. A video transmission happens and so on. So the point I'm making is it's going to be there. Yeah. So it's going to be there everywhere. So that part is very, very clear, and we will not able to live our life as effectively without IT. I think it's pretty clear. I don't think there is any discussion required. Imagine there was no railway reservation system and airline reservation system.
Yeah.
You and I would be just running around here and there to just reach here. So that's one part. On the other hand, engineering discipline, as I said, requires understanding the theoretical framework of how the whole discipline works, and IT has gone far ahead in terms of kind of research that is happening, whether it is in databases, whether it is in communication, whether it is on the security issues and so on and so forth. So there is a large research angle there in terms of exploring the boundaries of discipline. So when you put both of these things together, to call IT as not engineering discipline I would call a blasphemy.
In the ICT is the connector to IT and the society?
Yeah, exactly. What I am saying is the C makes actually everyone see what is IT, if I may use some play on the words, because without that C, you would not see power of an IT rolled out to individual masses. And as I just talked about earlier, mobile is a good example of where C sits right in between this IT and makes possible a person in Jumri Talaya to transfer money on mobile to someone else.
ICT as an engineering discipline, what roles do you see the ICT professionals graduating play in the industry?
Okay. See, as I said earlier, ICT is going to be used and impacting human society all over in whole life, as I said, and it is going to increase continuously. There will be more and more innovative applications. Which means what? It simply means that every product that you buy tomorrow will have a strong IT component, strong ICT component in it. So at first level, you will need design engineers in all the product areas who can appreciate ICT and how ICT can add value to their products and how ICT can make them look very, very competitive. So that's base minimum that you need. I'll give you a simple example today. If you are a travel agency and if you are defining a product today of promoting particular tour or whatever, you cannot say that I don't want to use ICT as a technology, because that's the hub of the whole thing. Or if you are in finance, the whole product is actually movement of ICT. Or go to the hardcore engineering products, as I said, car earlier, or mobile, or tomorrow it will be some other medical equipment. It will use IT and ICT technology so much that we will need the professionals who understand ICT in design. So that's one. Number two, having designed this product, it's not enough. Real life problems happen when they have to be manufactured, which again requires systems integration, design and other technologies which is required, and automation and equipments needs to be designed which will integrate IT. So there are a lot of new equipment which will come, which will kind of on assembly line introduce IT components together with engineering or electronic components. So there is careers there. Having manufactured the product, somebody has to be in the market to service them. We all fail, products fail, things happen, go wrong. So one has to find out intelligent way of using ICT to service your product. Sometime back we had to send engineers all the way back home to solve it. I think tomorrow it will be that somebody will sit and use ICT in a service center and solve most of your TV problems and computer problems. So ICT will become important even in servicing of products. So that's one. So I can think of so many opportunities. Of course there are base opportunities in IT and ICT industry itself, like all of us, where you hire these people to do software development for our customers, or hardware design for our customers, or communication design. So we as an industry anyway will need, but the end users will need it as much.
Yeah, beyond that.
Yes.
As you know, progressive Gujarat, and then you look at Ahmedabad as one of the dynamic education cities which having top institutes such as IM, CEPT, ATIRA, PRL, all research institutes. But however, when you look at engineering education, it's still been a bit delayed. So what is your opinion now about Ahmedabad as a city growing into the education of engineering discipline as a sector?
I think if I look at Gujarat over last 10 years, I've been closely observing the growth of Gujarat, and one thing strikes me quite well, that it is doing very well on the GDP growth and other economic growth parameters. And that essentially means that industry and services are growing very well in Gujarat. And Ahmedabad, of course, being one of the major center in Gujarat and as a capital, obviously will benefit from the growth of Gujarat as a state. Now, when you see industries and services growing in any particular region, which means industry is thriving there, which means employment is generated by the industry. And as we discussed earlier, IT is going to be the major part of any industry that we are talking. We are talking now of great demand for ICT professionals coming out and supporting those industries. And which is better way of doing it is to have the institute very close to the industry, because if industry is growing and institutes come close to them, then they can work together. A Gujarat's specific problem, shall we say, can be best solved by a university in Gujarat, because they are well connected and they can move overnight, as we say, to that place and see the problem and solve it. So there has to be a good ecosystem built, which is not only industries and IIMs, but now has to be supported by ICT kind of education, because ICT is going to be everywhere. And that was a missing piece probably earlier, but with this change in industry growth and interdisciplinary requirement of ICT in all products, and also IT industry per se also is growing now in Gujarat. If I put all of them together, I do feel that we need an university department which looks at ICT as a multidisciplinary education and provides talent. And to that extent, I do see Ahmedabad becoming a major growth center for education.
So as you know very well, at Ahmedabad University, Ahmedabad, we are opening an Institute of Information Communication and Technology, and you've just defined the need of how ICT can bridge and how it can create a huge impact to the industries, not only at a regional or a national level. So where do you think it can carve a niche for itself?
I think it's a very laudable effort to start an institute of this kind, because wearing my industry hat, I know for sure that we need people who understand IT to solve ICT, to solve the problems of society and human beings, as I said, which means it requires a multidisciplinary approach. It requires understanding the problems, finding the problems, discovery, innovation, working with industry. And I understand that this institute is going to make those laudable efforts in a new direction of learning ICT in the country. And I'm sure, given what we discussed in terms of requirement of ICT and the needs of discovery and innovation, we need an institute which can leverage it. And if we can do that, it will be very, very useful. And beyond everything else, it will build a talent in the country which we very badly need. So.